Welcome to the podcast. Today, we've got Matt Armstrong. He is a technology expert, a communication, and really has a great basis for understanding the technology space. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, artificial intelligence. Really got to see where Matt sees it going. He's got some great insight, and he's watched lots of technology develop. And today, we're really going to, jump into where do we see it going? How do we see it evolving? What are the ups and what are the downs? Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on. Love to talk about this too. So I'm super excited. Let's dig in.
So, we're going to go right at the first thing. When we look at artificial intelligence, a lot of times, I've heard it's going to be the end of humanity, right? I mean, most of us have that vision in our brain. The last scene in Terminator where the little thing's crawling across the road, are we going to be gone? Is AI going to take us out?
It's it's the same thing. Every technology has been the end of humanity, which really for us in a lot of ways is the end of life as we know it. And that to our brains is the end of humanity because of course you can't imagine the thing past that. So, I would say we've had nuclear weapons for going on, 80 years now. That's something that could have wiped out the world and hasn't yet. AI is a different type of threat, but every technology has that. What if it gets out of its own control, right? And so AI has that potential, but one of the first things I like to start with, and just to set the scope, when we talk tech, I like to talk high strategy level. Like, I've been a developer, I can get in the weeds. There's nothing down there for us. Like these ideas are going to be much more, any average person can understand this once we start getting the right analogies and the right metaphors. So the first problem I always have when we talk AI is it is such a broad term that means something different to every person. So, I know you're doing some AI stuff in your business. What do you see when I say AI in your realm? What do you describe that as?
For me, it's the ability to have something think hundreds of layers deep. Right. To me, in the construction world, I watch human beings, they're great at, look, I'm really great at construction. I've been doing it my whole life and I might be able to get, let's say I go 15 layers deep, but I can coordinate a delivery. I can make sure that they're coordinated between different teams. I might be able to get through, 10 different teams. I can make sure we're on track with budgets and communications, but somewhere as we start to tie in those little nuances that change dramatically, right? I mean, every single day you open up a wall, you find something new, something gets missing. Somewhere it gets lost in the ability to follow and communicate to everybody continuously and update that. And so somewhere something ends up happening where it just becomes something gets lost and it costs everybody money because we all lied to begin with in the business.
Yeah, and so that's a great example. So in my mind, that's not artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
because that is process. That is, I want to build a program that understands what is a wall, what happens if this wall changes. Take every task that I have in my brain, process that into a program that will understand if X, then do these 15 things. But that's not, in my mind at least, what we think of when we think of Terminator wiping out the world, right?
Yeah.
The difference is that fear of AI is what happens if we build a system that's really, really good at those task-based features like you're talking about, but doesn't understand the goals. It has no context of why we're doing this.
So the overall part of what I'm looking for is something to help us. First of all, take the brain damage out of construction, right? I mean, I feel like the task-oriented idea is great, but it doesn't somehow or another. We have grown our society by basic training of, a mass training of the same thing. School was a great example, right? Look, fundamentally, it did okay training people kind of one way to go.
For the average, it was great.
For the average, right? Right. But there was guys like me who I hated school.
Yes.
Right. I was miserable. It didn't work for me. And, although it probably would have made me a great factory worker, right? Give me the ability to go work in a factory, which I'm guessing that's why school and the industrial age came along, or maybe a military person, it feels like that's what school was designed for. Now I get to a point where life's got a lot more complicated. I don't know how valuable that school is to today, to my daughter and my kids who are going into higher education. I'm not sure how valuable it is anymore.
Again, yeah, and you're right. I have the same conversation with my kids, and I do entrepreneurial coaching for people that are starting out. And one of the first things I have to kind of knock into them is there is no right answer. You are so used to the idea of the teacher wants something, figure out what the teacher wants. It's on the test, get it right, then you succeed. Entrepreneurism is totally the opposite. It's you have to design a deal that no one's thought of before. You have to find a service that people need but don't understand that they need. And if you ask them the way you would ask the teacher what's on the test, they don't know, right? They don't know what the right answer is. That gets us like AI is not going to figure out those goals.
Well, just
it will do the tasks really well, but it's not going to figure out what new goals should we follow.
So when I look at the world, when I look at like construction, for example, my judgment is that the real estate construction world and the entire, so we roll out brands, right? We work with big brands and they roll out. And today it's such an archaic process that I feel we work very, very hard in creating this program, and it's an environmental nightmare, right? The amount of time and energy is wasted on deals that are lost, the amount of time and energy that we spend developing stuff. The human, has created these, like the bidding process. It's a perfect example of where we lie to ourselves. But in order to create what someone feels like is the right number, we all have to go to this war to start a project. Right.
It's garbage in, garbage out. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know everything that's going to go wrong. I don't know how commodity prices are going to change. Rough estimate, right? Like it's the reason they call it estimating. It's a guess. Yeah. So AI, a lot of what you'll see with that is you'll fool yourself into thinking that the system takes the guesswork out.
Yeah.
But you have the same problem I had when I was building intranets and extranets and high-speed trading systems for hedge funds. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Like you build this beautiful trading algorithm, but if you put the wrong information in, it gives you the wrong information out, right? Like, doesn't matter how perfect the system is. You have the same problem with estimating. So you can build a great process, but then you go to your stone guy and say, give me an estimate. He goes, I don't know, X, right? Now you put that bad guess into this really tight, really organized set of constraints. And you're also building your business to say, no, we've got this great process now. So just in time, we're going to not have this show up and be on site for 3 days. We're going to have it delivered same day because our system tells us that will work. Garbage in, garbage out, especially with subcontractors, right? You're going to have that same problem. Everyone's got to be on board and understand the system and make it work.
Right. So, as we start to really work on, so my thought is that as AI gets really developed, where it's going to help us is being able to dive way deeper than ever before, right? So, if humans can do 10 layers deep, right? If I can get those 10 layers deep, AI will go, 5,000 layers deep, right? It'll be able to go back to where the brick was, where the mason's brick was mined from, right? Its path of travel, its weather patterns and conditions. It'll be able to really go into such a deep level of understanding of how that brick processes it. It really will mitigate what we have today, which, look, we put an order for brick in. We have no idea when it's going to show up.
Right. So great. And there's two pieces on that. So one thing you got to think about when you start looking at that option is what did you teach it and what did it learn on its own?
Yes.
So AI, a big part of AI is what it learned on its own. And that's where, up to this point, everyone's been super excited. Big data sets, right?
Big data sets.
The problem with big data sets in AI is it doesn't have context at all. So the perfect example, and this is an example that's 15 years old at this point, is Target, right? So Target has all of these sales databases, everything that everyone ever bought, right? That's why you're in their loyalty program and they track it and all this. And what the system found is if you switch from scented lotions to unscented lotions, there is about an 85% chance that you are in your second trimester of pregnancy. Now,
that's what really, right?
Yeah, the system didn't know that.
Right.
What the system knew, all it did is it said, I looked through all of this data, and what I found is if someone was buying scented lotion, switched to unscented lotion, approximately 6 months later, they'll start buying diapers.
Right.
it doesn't understand what a diaper is.
Right.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
even
That's
understand
right.
it's just SKU A goes to SKU B means SKU C in the future.
I got it. So it is just a data set. It's not thinking.
It has no context for why. So what ends up happening in that scenario is literally a father shows up and is yelling at a local manager in a Minneapolis Target. You keep sending my 17-year-old daughter things about babies and bottles and everything. And of course, the manager's like, I have no idea what happened. I'm sorry. They take his number. They call him back 2 weeks later. And he says, you know what? I had to talk with my daughter. I owe you an apology. I didn't realize this was going on, but she is pregnant.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and again, that's with 15-year-old technology. That's not even where we're at today.
Right.
But the thing you need to keep in mind is when you start talking about the AI in your systems, are you telling it how to figure out when the stone will arrive? Or is it saying, I've seen how the stone has arrived 15 times in the past. Therefore, I'm going to update my model. That's, again, this is the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
To say, I know you told me it takes a day. It actually takes 0.7 days.
Right.
And I'm going to change everything around it.
Right.
Now, that's great. You feel really good about that process. This is exactly what the manufacturers did with just in time in the 90s. The downside comes up when you start doing that and then COVID hits, right?
Yeah.
And the AI has no context for what is changed in the world. And now you're building all your models on stone that's going to arrive in 2 days instead of 3 weeks, right?
Well, that's exactly, that whole model, so for me, the AI can't be the algorithm. Hey, it took 3 days to get here. In order for AI to be effective, it's got to be able to go into the actual, it's got to be able to actually go into the mind where the product's being being pulled out of the ground. It's got to be able to follow and manage and know it at that level, right? Actually watch production levels, watch how many people got sick this week. That's got to be able to forecast, and that to me is where I believe the AI model really will create it. It's an understanding that, all right, look, they had a strike this week, that 3 months from now, that's going to impact our ability to deliver.
It's chaos theory.
Right.
It's the butterfly effect. If I teach it everything about everything in the world, suddenly now it can track everything to the point of, if there's a butterfly flaps its wings, a hurricane will be created, which will slow our stone delivery. Again, maybe AI can go out into the world and find that context better. What we're going to see, at least for the next 10 years, though, is it's not going to have all the context. It's going to, maybe it'll pick weather patterns. I'm going to work those into the equation. Maybe I'll pick this piece, but until it gets all of it,
it's still be a kind of a model that's difficult to now. Like, if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would carry a device that knows, where I'm at, what I'm doing, what I'm buying, what I'm watching, tracks every communication I have with the world. I carry it with me all day. It's attached to my body. And, I would told you, F off. I'm an American. There's no way this isn't some communist country. And now I pay you $1,000. I pay the world $1,000 a year to carry this phone, and it knows everything about me. Now, my judgment is that's how the technology will work. It's in that those companies that aren't connected to the internet won't be able to sell. In other words, if AI starts to design buildings, right? If architects go away and it starts to design buildings, it won't be able to pick your product, right? It won't be able to go pick your brick if it doesn't understand and it's not connected to your system, right? In other words, if your system's in the dark, it's going to have to treat you like a variable that's too risky, or right. We might be able to use you. Like, there may be times when you go, hey, the price of that brick is worth doing it. And you as the owner might go, hey, I'm willing to take a risk. I have schedule variation. I'm allowed there. And you as an owner may pick, a cost over predictability.
It's a bespoke option. I'm adding this type of marble.
Right. It gives me that option, which makes a variable, which may be something I choose to do for pricing or quality or whatever reason I do that. But AI in the moment of creating it won't be able to do it unless it knows your system as intimately we were talking about.
So that's a great point. If you think about, I came out of college in like 2001, so right around the .com boom. And in my mind, I see the world of the internet as there have been 3 ages of the internet so far. So the first age is infrastructure. You can start it in the 50s, the 60s, or the beginning of time. It was whatever technology came together to put those first two universities to link up and call it intranet, right?
Yep.
And that goes all the way up until about the mid 90s, which is that's the time you either had or knew a number of people who had a dial-up service, right?
Hell, you got mail.
Right, exactly.
You got mail.
You knew someone who could get on the internet and take 3 minutes to download a single picture, right? And it was like, I don't know what's here, but it's something.
Yeah.
So that was the build out, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
The second phase was, and this was where all the venture capitalists and the investors came in. That second phase was the kind of the collection and create. So suddenly we realized, okay, the infrastructure is going to get better. We need to get everything out of the Library of Congress and every video and movie that's ever been made. And we need to get it all in here. And we need to have the DMV create a website to collect the data that we're generating right now. Let's collect and translate, get it all into, and this goes back to what you were just talking about. How do I get into the system?
Yeah.
That was everyone's race to get into the system that the internet was going to be.
Yeah.
And we did that pretty well. You know, I would kind of say the end of that, you could even look at it and say that was Netflix starts as a DVD shipper.
That's right.
Literally this year was the final time they said there is no reason to do that. New movies don't even come out on DVDs. We are officially in the age where collect and create is done, right? Like we have translated what had to be translated and we have collection tools for new stuff. The third phase was, that's great. We had all the mass media done, but the peer-to-peer section is here now. So this was the rise of social media, kind of started with Napster, MySpace, which was curate and connect. And that was, I'm going to create my own content. Hey, look at me. Remember we used to be in high school together.
Yep.
Now here's my kids. Take a look at this. All these micro transactions where you and I care what your kids look like right now because I know you. I don't care what everyone in the world's kids look like, right? And that kind of is going up to the current time where we're seeing TikTok. You're starting to see the pullback from Facebook and those things a little bit, wherever has that like backlash of social media, right? So that, in my mind, kind of ends with the next election. November of next year is kind of when the social media peer-to-peer connection ends. And then AI kicks off the next phase.
Yeah.
And that is the destruction of trust. And that's when we talk about what can
That's a
AI
big one.
do. Yeah. And we're already seeing that. Like there was literally an article in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal yesterday about a high school that had 14-year-old boys using AI technology they found for free on the internet to take pictures of girls in their class and deep fake, create fake videos in pornography.
Yeah.
And the schools, of course, have no control over this. They don't understand what it is. But the first reaction you see from the parents is, if this is what the world's going to look like, I'm telling my children, don't put your picture on the internet.
Well, the problem we're having is that we can't allow that to happen. Look, if forgeries have got to, that has always been the case. You know, with the with our money system, in order for that to get created, we had to make it, you know, forgeries had to be not allowed. Right. And we got to do the same thing with the internet, right? You know,
So let's lean into the good and the bad of it.
Yeah. Right.
So I call it the destruction of trust, and that looks scary.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
And AI, between the videos, the ability to, I mean, if you go into some of these free AI tools and create a picture of, I want to have this actor kicking a dog. They can literally create a picture that looks real. And as much as, government can try and say, we're going to watermark it, we're going to do all this stuff. It doesn't matter what we in America do. The world's doing it.
The world's doing it, right.
Just like we had, whatever influence you think did or didn't happen with our elections, clearly foreign services are driving some type of interaction, emotional reaction out of us on social media.
Well, and if social media raced to the bottom of our brain stems, right? If it raced to that addictive part
all
of
emotion,
right, that whole, I need, your back. I mean, I even judge myself. I mean, I look at, I'm an avid reader. For a long time, I read a book a week every week, and this last year that slowed down dramatically because of my scrolling. Right, all of a sudden, because of the podcast, I'd get online at night, I'd kind of check things out, and all of a sudden, I've got more and more hours dedicated to the online scrolling than ever before, and my reading dropped down. And I would say that tapped into an addictive behavior, right? I'd even notice myself saying, I'm not going to scroll tonight. And then I'm scrolling again. I'm like, damn it, I just did that again.
I do the same thing. I'm in YouTube and I'm watching long form stuff that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I get sucked into the shorts that are right there because
Yeah.
they're so easy.
Yeah.
And I'll just watch one. Okay, so that's the bad side. So let's talk about the good side of the destruction of trust, though. What that will do for everyone, we still have to live. We still have to connect.
Yeah.
It will draw us back towards smaller communities. I will only interact with people I know.
Physically touch you.
Well, or I know in a way, like you and I may meet one or two times.
Yeah.
And then I know you, right? So when I see a deep fake video or I see a video of you saying something I know you wouldn't say.
But that's I think my concern is that if we don't make it as illegal to create deep fakes of people as we did, doing forgery of money, where you end up, look, when you were a kid, do you ever do you photocopied a dollar bill and I thought, oh my God, look at me, I'm rich.
Right.
And my mom would be like, dude, you're going to go to federal, you can't do that. And I'm like, what? Well, no, that's a federal offense. You can't.
So again, the problem is that has a physical dollar at the end. Right?
Yeah.
If you're creating, and it's not even you creating it. Okay. So I go to an AI system and I say, I just want you to get more followers. The AI may look at it and go, hey, here's a great way to get a follower. I'm going to take a picture of the current president. I'm going to create a picture of him kicking a dog. And I'm going to post it on your social media. It'll get a reaction. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's not even people creating these things anymore. And you would look at it and say, I didn't mean to create it. I just told it to get me followers and it got me 1 million followers. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So the idea that we're somehow going to legislate this into not happening, it's impossible.
But if we don't, it will break down the fabric of our whole society. If we can't trust, because the problem is that once we get to the point where, AI is calling my kid and pulling it out of school, right? And look, I don't. If that happens, right, all of a sudden someone's calling the principal saying, "Hey, I'm going to pick up, Bobby at school." Now all of a sudden, it's faked me. That whole breakdown in society creates such a. We're going to go back to Stone Ages. We can't.
Not Stone Ages.
Yeah,
we're going back to the 80s, right? The difference is that we look at it and we say it's not worth fighting the noise to find the signal. So I'm going to go back to the ways that we interacted before, which was I knew the teacher, I knew the principal. So when I get just like right now, when I get a spam call that says, I'd love to list your business on Google, I know that it's a spam call. There is no way someone would call, right?
Right.
So they'll have the same types of interaction where we will start to look at, and it's funny, as someone who I lived, like my wife and I talk all the time about how we got lucky. We lived through the best way to experience social media, which is we didn't have to grow up with it.
That's right. That's right.
We came out of school with it not being there.
Right.
It popped up about 10 years after we were in college, that was the best way to experience social media.
Well, they didn't copy all the stuff you did in college.
And I had the excitement of, I haven't seen what these people have done in 15 years. I'm rediscovering people I didn't know.
Yeah,
that was the first driver of social media that was fun. It was someone I would never see again in my life. And now I got to reconnect. Now, the downside was we all realized after about 5 years, there's a reason I didn't stay in touch with that person. It's not that I don't like them.
Yeah.
But the more I know about them, you can always find something you don't like about a person.
Well, and also my judgment was that it messed me up. Yes. Right. Because all I saw was their good days. Right. I didn't see the days they woke up and felt like an asshole. I didn't see the days they woke up and felt crappy about themselves. I didn't see, hey, look, it's great when I see you in Italy drinking wine and, on the Amalfi Coast and, that's all you've ever posted, everything that's good about you, and then all of a sudden I started comparing my insides to your best days. And I'm going, oh, I don't feel like that today. And, and the shame. So that was some of the problem that happened at that point was there was a real, the backlash of my comparison, and it made me feel bad. It was great to have the connection, but then I had to really get aware. Hey, man, I'm just looking at their best days. Yeah. Right.
Well, and you would see their best days and their worst opinions, right? Like it was so easy. I would have friends I would play tennis with, and I only knew them in that context, and we were great friends there. And then I would see them online with a political view that I didn't like, and it was like, I don't want to know that about that person. I want us in the context, that bubble, right? That's the way life has always been up until the point where we forced ourselves to publish everything about ourselves. Like you would have people at work that you had differing political or religious, beliefs, but it didn't matter. That wasn't the context we were here. That social media has created so much noise around know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And that's not the way humans should function, right? We are very much, let's find what we have in common and work together in that. And that's, I think, where, again, that destruction of trust will go back to bringing us back to one-on-one connections and transitive trust, meaning I know you. So if I call you and say, I need an accountant, and you say, I know the perfect person, I trust that person because I've translated your trust to them. We will, that's the networks we're going to create, rather than what social media will scream at.
See, I think that there's the complex with the heart of that is that I'm going to get sucked in a whole nother scenario, right? That, all of a sudden, like, for example, for us as a general contractor, my belief is that those days are counted. There's very, very limited, the future of general contracting, the future of subcontracting, those are going to change, right? We're going to go the ways of Uber, right? That all of a sudden the technology will take over what we do as a role, which is organizing groups of people and bring them together. That technology will do that, right? And the AI will essentially credit score each person, right? As like an Uber driver, it'll go, hey, look, I've got this project that AI developed, right? It'll take materials from around the world that are available, because they can see its availability, its access, and can count on that, right? The path of travel, the way it's delivered. It'll be able to understand costing, scheduling, and communication between teams much, much better. That, because of its scheduling ability, it'll make it way more profitable. Today, the world is, it's a mess with the way that we bid. If we go look at, I said I could do it for $10. You say you can do it for $9. Someone else comes in and said they could do it for $7. Now we've got to work with that guy who said he can do it for $7, and they show up and they don't have the people or the techniques or stuff, and it really messes up the whole system because.
But that's the trust, right?
Yeah,
and this is what's funny is everything that construction has been built on, is going to become more important, which is I know this contractor. He may be $1 more, but he shows up on time. He does the work. Like when I renovated my house, the worst part was finding someone to show up. I didn't even think about the quality of the work because I assumed the quality of the work would all be the same.
Yeah.
What I asked my friends was, who will show up? Because we all know that's the hardest part is he'll get halfway done and you don't have a kitchen and he's gone for 3 weeks and he's just in the wind.
Right? Well, I think the problem is that why they don't show up is ultimately the problem, right? So because the system's flawed, that, I've learned that why subs show up is it's their payroll, right? 9 times out of 10, it's about where I can go to make sure I make payroll this week. Right. And then somewhere in there, they don't know you. They don't know the system. They're already on a job
that's the point. They don't know you.
Right.
The ones that are your strongest ones are the people you've worked with for years.
They can count on you.
And they can count on you. They can call you and say, hey, I got to make payroll this week. Can you help me out? Or I got to go to this other job. And you either find a way to work with them or you say, I get it. Go do that other job. We'll work around you. But that's when the destruction of trust is I can't trust anyone who just calls themselves a subcontractor, but I can trust the person who calls me up and goes, Anthony, how you doing? Right.
Yeah.
And knows me. That context is what AI won't pick up.
Okay. I got you on that, but you got to remember also, it's easy to be in a relationship with you as a subcontractor when I just, a couple of projects in. Right. You're trying to have a subcontractor for 20 years and not mess something up in the 20 years you've been with them, right? Because somewhere, you had them bid something, they got on it. Somewhere, it's like having good long-term friends. Yeah. Look, it's easy for you and I to be friends. We met each other. Hey, we'll have an interesting conversation. We'll get to be friends and get into a great relationship.
Yeah.
But 20 years from now, when I go on vacation and I get grumpy and say something wrong, or, we have a political thing that we disagree on. And all of a sudden, I don't know, your wife yells at my wife and, whatever, we have this, some sort of long-term relationships are difficult to maintain as humans. Now, when AI looks at it and goes, all right, look, I can take the emotional part out of it. I'm strictly going to give you, hey, look, I've coordinated this. When you as a sub show up at your house to do a remodel, right? What I got to trust is the parts I need to do say it's a plumber, right? The parts I need to do the plumbing will be exactly here. And by the way, when you're done doing these 6 items, I'll pay you. Just like Uber pays at the end of every trip. That Uber person can go to an ATM and pull out their cash and go fill their gas tank up right after the ride.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so
let me tell you, as a former developer,
yeah,
I don't spend any of my time on the stuff that works, right? Like all the time I'm spending are those edge cases, exactly like you talked about. We've had a long-term relationship where I've built 20 restaurants for you, and every time I show up, the equipment is here, and one time it doesn't. I would argue it's the opposite. Long-term relationships they're hard to maintain, but they're the easiest to repair because you have a reason to, right? If I came in today and this was the first time we met in person and I said something to you didn't like, I'm just a jerk, right?
Right. There's no relationship.
We're never going to meet again.
Right.
If we've known each other for 10 years and I say something that's you don't like, the exact same thing, Matt's having a bad day.
Yeah, right.
And that level of connection is something that the AI doesn't understand. Give this person a break. This edge case is an edge case. It's okay, right? We're gonna deal with this, and this is why you'll continue to get paid to manage it, because you get paid to take the responsibility, not to do the tasks, right?
Yeah.
They don't care what tasks you're doing. They care you're doing all the tasks necessary to get it done in the budget. And that, as we see more noise in the world, we're all going to start going back to, I know that person. They're conscientious. They're well-meaning. They've done everything they can. They're smart. They're educated in this experience that I'm trying to get them to do. If it went wrong, it's not their fault. They're worth sticking with, right?
But so if technology has made, has technology made things better?
I would argue, yeah. I mean, I think, let's put it this way. What is better? I would say definitely productivity. And that's how everyone's life gets better, right? Like if you're a king in the Middle Ages and you're the richest person in the world, you still don't have air conditioning.
That's right.
Productivity is by far the best way to make human experience better, right? Like we get wars and all those things out of it as well. But
let's say you're a king in the middle centuries, right? Could you see in your entire lifetime, you may never have seen as many naked women as you can see in 15 minutes on the internet today.
Right. And your entire lifetime is 30 years. Because you have no health care.
Right. But your whole life, you're the king. You can see as many naked women as they can walk in front of you, right? Because you're the king, right? But today, in 15 seconds, you can scroll through one of those apps and find more naked. So has it made it better? My judgment is, like you said, I think there is making it better. As we transition these technologies, it gets confusing as hell for all of us, right? We're all trying to figure out, all right, we've made this change. How am I going to use that in a way? First of all, it's making my brain crazy, right? I mean, I've got to take this primitive brain that 40,000 years ago could barely talk,
right? Maybe
didn't talk, and we're just coming out of the primordial ooze, and today. Look, if I handed my cell phone to my great grandmother, she would have thought this is some sort of black magic.
Right. And the most interesting part of that is not just that she would think it's black magic. It's how much I could take someone from the Roman empires to the Middle Ages and they would recognize everything. That's a horse. That's a cart. A road looks like a dirt road, maybe some stone. How much it didn't change for all those years. And then you're right. Within the last lifetime, you can go from the Civil War, where people were still standing in straight lines and shooting at each other because we didn't understand what a firearm.
Can you imagine that thing?
Right, like
because of honor. The honor was more important than death. Humans were at the time.
It was honor, but it was also up to that point. It was the correct military strategy because guns were so inaccurate.
Right,
the only way to hit anything was to volley 1,000 bullets at the same time because they didn't understand making a bullet spin. So. On one hand, you look at it and you're like, it's crazy they would stand there, but it was the only way you could hit anything is you had to have essentially a wall of lead coming. So in some ways it made sense. And then of course you get to World War I where we've got horses running by machine guns, right? It takes the human brain, not just the time to figure this out, but the emotions that we have built into what does a horse mean on a battlefield, right? Like the honor is part of the construct of their identity. They couldn't change that quickly. Now, as we've gotten used to this technology changing, in a lot of ways, we're getting better at changing faster, right? Our identity switches faster. because we're used to all that.
Our adoption rate of technology is happening faster. Yeah. I mean, you saw that with
integration, right?
Yeah.
Not just adoption, like using it,
Yeah.
but understanding things have changed, so I need to change. It's a skill that they didn't have in the 50s and 60s, right?
Well, I think that's kind of that's what I've always hoped for, like especially with my kids. If Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You've got air, food, shelter. My thought has always been, if I take care of those for my children, right? If I get them through the basic stuff, and I maybe even give them, work real hard on their understand themselves well, take them out of that. Where could they go? Right? Is that the same thing with society? Is if this technology has really risen our abilities, look, if most of what we're doing, technology has solved, right? I mean, we can now communicate faster than ever before. I mean, I remember the days where I begged contractors to put a fax machine on a job site, as opposed to them taking pictures of a job and emailing to me. Today we can make changes every hour on a job site. Instead, I can have a full team of people on a meeting. We can make a change in the moment, right? And that's going to happen faster, right? And for some point, maybe that makes construction a little faster, right? Makes it our ability to make money a little bit more, right? Certainly we're seeing society have a lot more things than ever before. I mean, if you look at old houses, I mean, the houses today are dramatically different than ever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, I think what we haven't touched on, which is probably the biggest risk to the structure of humanity currently, is what happens when productivity is not tied to labor anymore. That's when
right.
we have to really question, why did we structure society the way we have? And that's, the perfect example is give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. What happens if I build a robot to fish? Who eats?
Well,
it's so decided by who owns the robot, right?
You're seeing billionaires like Bill Ackman he comes out and says to Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, look, this AI is going to be the destruction of humanity, right? The problem is we're all going to become lazy. We're all going to forget how to farm. We're all going to forget how to do these things. And at some point, Elon starts going, well, like I can now embed this chip into your brain. So I was asked, here's a game. So if I said to you, all right, if we were to take this device right here, and I embedded, and I'm holding up a chapstick stick, and I've tested this on 1 billion people, right? It's certainly going to be safe. If I embedded this in your body, it would be able to monitor you, and you'll never get sick, right? And you go, okay, Anthony, here, and I'm going to charge you, let's say $500,000. You're going to put it in your body, and by the way, you don't have to pay me now. We'll take payments, right? And it will embed this in your body, and it'll monitor you like you have a team of the best doctors in the world monitoring you 100% of the time, and you'll never get sick. Would you do it?
Honestly, I think the other half of that question for me is, how much did healthcare get better when I do get sick, right? Because this is part of it, because I definitely hear Elon talking about the problem we're going to have is we can't type or talk fast enough to interact with the computers the way that they will process data for us.
Right.
But he misses the point. That's the task, not the context. The context is, why am I interacting with these quick decisions at all when what I really want is health, right? So the health may be, let's embed it in here, or it's, you have enough free time to go to the doctor on a regular basis where you get your regular CAT scan, which is now $10 because it's super cheap because we know how to make great CAT scans, right?
Well, unless all of a sudden the company goes to hire you, you don't have one of the scanners in you. I got to worry about you in sick days.
Yeah, which, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get into the nuances of those questions, but the bigger question of the whole thing, like, when you hear people say, we're going to have so much productivity, we won't have jobs.
Yeah.
There's a huge number of people that don't have jobs. They're called retired, right?
Well, and if you go to the DMV, there's a huge portion of people that shouldn't have jobs. We say when I go to the DMV, I'm like, I'm surprised there's that many people that have jobs. No, so imagine now I say to you, okay, I'm going to take the same device, I'm going to embed it in you. You'll never get sick, and you'll know 3 languages. Right, just imagine. So you put this in. By the way, $700,000, but you know 3 languages, and you can change those languages. You're going to go on vacation to Tibet. You can learn one of the dialects from Tibet. If you want to go to China, you can learn a Chinese dialect, or you want to go to Portugal. Look, and you can change them whenever you want. But you get 3 languages at any given time. You speak them clearly. $700,000. You never get sick. Would you do it now?
Maybe.
All right. So now I'm going up another notch.
Yeah.
Now 1.5 million. Right, for 1.5 million, I put this thing in your body. You never get sick. Now, I'm talking about mental illness as well.
Yeah.
So no depressions, no stress. I mean, you're able to really dial it in. You have all the languages in the world, right? You can speak any language at any given time. You can communicate to everybody quickly. And you have all the knowledge of the internet. Now, what you doing? It's 1.5. And by the way, you don't have to pay me now. You can pay me.
Would I do it
Yeah,
personally? No,
All
probably
right.
not.
Would you put them in your kids?
No, probably not.
All right. Now, just imagine this. I put them in all my kids.
Yeah.
Now, your kids have to compete with my kids.
But again, that's the difference of the future. What is competing me? Look, when I coach people,
Yeah.
the biggest problem they have isn't I don't have enough.
Yeah.
It's I've got so much and I don't know what to do. It's the same reason you're scrolling on your phone at night. The thing we're missing these days is purpose. That's all of this is noise, right? So, you can have all the knowledge of the internet. You already do. How many times do you look at your phone and go, I don't know what to look at? That's why I'm scrolling through shorts. You could find out all the knowledge of anything anywhere.
Yeah.
And the problem you have is I can't find something I'm interested in.
But what happens when I've got all that knowledge? Now, let's say fundamentally, my current brain, my primitive brain can't hold all that. I mean, I'm noticing it now at 55 years old that, I'm kind of like a sponge. I feel like if I've completely saturated the brain, if I get to learn if one more drop of knowledge goes in, something has to drop out. And I'm afraid that I'm gonna start forgetting kids' birthdays.
But that's good.
Yeah.
That's the way the brain is designed, because the goal of the brain is figure out what I want out of life.
Yeah.
Everything around it, all the knowledge is used to get to that goal. So it's every time it drops a drop out, it's saying, I don't need this. Now, the reason it won't be your kid's birthday that falls out is because you have locked in that my children and their happiness is a goal.
But what happens when society starts to create a different level of being together, right? That all of a sudden now I become, there was a, I forget it was a skit, the big brain, small brains, right? Do I become one of the folks that have the embedded technology in them? Do I start looking like a monkey to them, or am I an ant to them?
And you of all people should understand this. Doesn't matter what they think of you, because if they think you're in their club or they don't, what you realize as an entrepreneur over time is that's all the system, right?
Yeah.
Like, where I lie in the system, I've been at the top, I've been at the bottom. My happiness is not there.
Yeah, but I look at retired entrepreneurs. I spent a lot of time. I'm getting ready to head in that direction.
Yeah.
And I've been really looking at men and people that are in that range. And I noticed one thing, their sense of relevance, right? My concern is that because of relevance in society, it's like that feeling of when I go out to a deserted island. I got on that island, I have this great time, but all of a sudden I start getting island fever, right? Where I'm out here, I'm not part of society. Society's growing without me. Now, it sounded like fun. I'm escaped, and I can be myself, and I don't need to have all that noise.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it's passing me up.
Yeah, and I think that is probably more a sign that you like solving problems.
Yeah.
It's not that you feel forgotten by the world.
Yeah.
It's more that you like it. You and I are sitting and talking, not because you want to be relevant. It's because you like this conversation, right? That context of I want to challenge my brain. I have the same thing. And then I'll go on one of those island trips and I get bored and I'm sitting on the beach and I'm reading the same book and all that. But then I go scuba diving, or I go and get on a little sunfish boat and I'm trying to figure out how to control this boat in high winds. And all that strips away in that moment because I have a problem to solve that is very difficult for my experience level. And then you're right. Then you go home and you're back in the hotel room and now you're back into, but I'm watching the world go by on my phone, FOMO, all that stuff. But you're looking for that moment of challenge. And that's not the challenge. Like, I can tell by looking at your who you are in your offices and everything. Your challenge isn't I'm trying to fit in or be relevant. You're looking for things to solve, right?
Well, or look, I keep looking at my job in my roles are to continue to help people break through ideas, right? For me as an entrepreneur, the gift of it is being able to solve big problems, and carry people forward, right? The gift of where I feel like is in the game of being able to create a living for my family that's healthy and productive and continuous, right? I want to make sure that I protect it, long term, right? So I've got a financial income, I've got a financial basis, but then also create that for the families that work for me, right? How do I make sure that the people that work in, my concern is that, 1,000 years or even 100 years from now, they'll look back at entrepreneurs like slave masters were of the past, right? They're going to look at us and go, "You made people work in cubes." I'm like, no, listen. My whole goal is to really create great lifestyles. Are they healthy? Are we creating people that love what they do? They're passionate. They come to work with, it's not some, trudging the road. That they really create something about, being in the moment that, I, at least make work as passionate, creative, and an effort of developing a life that's worth living.
Right. Helping them find the challenge that excites them.
Yeah.
Even if that challenge is get this one report to run or figure out how to use Excel because they don't know in the past. Right.
Right.
Or maybe it's, I want to be one of the new on-site people because I'm tired of being in the office all the time. And as a good entrepreneur and a good boss in any company, you're constantly asking your people, what's interesting to you? Even if they're not asking themselves, that's part of what you can do for them is say, what's the best part of your week? What's the worst part of your week? How do we get more of the best part? And by the way, your worst part of the week is the person next to you's best part of the week. So why don't we have them do that? Right.
That's right.
That's what a good manager in any, whether it's entrepreneur or middle manager, that's what you do for a person is help them break out of the pattern I'm in of I do this work and then I go home to help them find challenges that feel good to do work.
So my judgment is that if social media raced to the bottom of my brainstem, right, it got to that addictive behaviors that got me to watch and scroll and scroll. Right. Will AI race to the top of my brainstem? It'll know me better than I know myself, right? It'll know me better than my boss. It'll be able to know me in a way that it's been with me every day. It watches me. It knows me.
It will know what elicits emotion from you. It already does.
Right? Yeah, which then I'm concerned because then does it manipulate me?
So
like my wife does. My wife manipulates me in a way. Like sometimes I don't even know she's doing it, right? She always says, she's a Greek woman. She goes, look, he may be the head of family, but that old line, I'm the neck, I turn the head, right? Yeah. So so will AI be that for us?
Again, I think the bigger problem is why are you laying in bed with the phone, right? You're searching for something in that device, and I'm sure you've felt it. Everyone has felt it. That feeling where you pick up your phone and you don't know why, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know what the serotonin's in here somewhere. I got to find it, right?
Yeah.
That's the moment that is not about AI. It's about you looking at it and saying, I'm going to go rake leaves because, and that's a break everyone has to, like my teenage daughter has made that break a couple of times where she loves to be on it. And then sometimes she'll come to us and go, I just need a break. It's become a pattern, not a joy, right?
It's stuck. I've now implemented no phone Sundays.
Yeah.
Now I can tell you right now, I suck at it. I've really suffered in that. This should be a lot easier to leave my phone somewhere. But in order for it to really work, because of the communication we are today, I've got to listen to my wife. I got to listen to others, and I got to kind of create some agreements. Like, hey, look, I'm going to be off the phone, and I need people to communicate to you if something needs to be done because it just all stuff that's out there. But I need that mental break from where I'm, because I feel that, like, just like I did here, just like I did, when I was a drinker, being a recovered alcoholic, I remember every Sunday night I would say to myself, I'm not going to drink this next week. Right. I just got to dial it up. It would be tick, 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 60 minutes would come on. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to. And then Monday I'd come back and I'd be drinking again. Yeah. That feeling of I'm hooked. Right. That feeling inside of just, damn it. I didn't want it. When I said I wasn't going to drink, I meant it. Right. Well, the same thing happens with my social media. Right. I'm now in that spot where I know it's bad. I need to create keep my brain open and looking at other things. I don't need it to be staring at a 5x4 square all the time. I need to really look at.
So, and this is where the destruction of trust that I talk about in that fourth age, is actually good, because what'll happen is hopefully instead of picking up your phone and searching for a connection in there, you'll go, this is all noise. It's all garbage. I know all of it is fake. I know there's so much noise. It's not worth the search for the signal in there. And you call a friend and you say, hey, what'd you do today? Oh yeah, we went to, this festival. We went to apple picking. Oh yeah. How was that? Right. The problem right now is the junk food is so good that we don't want to eat. The the burger even, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not even, it's candy, right?
Yeah.
And so the AI will make better and better candy, right? It's gonna figure out faster and faster ways to get that emotional response out of you. But what will also happen as you see it is the candy has a quicker rush,
Yeah.
but a harder fall, right? Because
Well, we'll get there.
this video, but it's
That pendulum will swing. So the real question I want to ask is AI, is it a fad?
So, all right, you look at it. Let's start with every technology goes through the standard adoption curve. Anything, the stuff you hear about in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever, all the way down to what you've seen at your local company where the CEO is like, we're going to do this now. You start with that standard adoption curve. It moves to hype. Everyone's super excited.
Yep.
And this is going to be the greatest thing we've ever seen. And right now, yes, that is where we're at, is the top. Everyone's trying Chat GPT for the first time. And look at what this thing can do. Imagine what else it will be able to do. The next step is a huge drop from I didn't know anything about it to this is horrible. This tech is oversold. It never worked. We're going to see that, which that is a normal bottoming out where everybody who jumped in without knowing what they were going to use it for jumps out.
Yep.
And the people that are left are kind of like, no, but it fits my business. And that's why I'll use it. And then we'll see it slowly move up to the adoption curve where it's kind of just ingrained. So is it in a fad stage right now? Yes. Will it end up going away because no one owns a pet rock anymore? No, it's going to be ingrained in a lot of different ways and a lot of different techniques.
So we'll have it. It's just going to take. It's a lot longer than we're thinking. Is it next? Will we have artificial general intelligence in 2024?
Again, all depends on what you call it. Like if we talk about the large language model stuff, where it's like, can I generate not great content for search engines? Yes, we have that now, right? You go to Bard, and I have friends who do search engine optimization. They use that, and it's perfect for them because they need to generate a lot of content that very few people will actually read because they're not generating it for people. They're generating it for the search engines.
Yeah, right now it feels a lot like the big gold rush, right? Everybody's running out to figure out how AI is going to work for them.
Yeah.
Right. And hey, some will strike a good vein and they'll get a good run and they'll get some good veins. I start asking people, do you want to be the miner or do you want to be the people selling them the tools? Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, in my judgment, there's a lot of people right now that need that support, life coaches, business coaches, people that are support them as they go through that transition in those new spaces.
Well, and it's a moving target too, because the AI tools get better. But like if we use the example of a search engine optimization, Google, once they are flooded with all of this content that is generated by Bard and ChatGPT, is totally going to change how search works. Because I can't just look through a large amount of data and find what's relevant, because now so much noise. You're going to generate a million times more content because it costs no labor to do it.
Yeah. Search
is going to have to change because now instead of searching for what's there, it's going to have to search for nuance. And that we're going to end up being, the way that artificial intelligence got trained is we did it for them all those years that it said, in order to get to this website, prove you're not a robot. What is a bicycle? They weren't asking us.
That's right.
They were telling us, train this AI bot.
Yeah.
So we're going to see that more. But what's going to happen is as the tools get better, everyone's going to realize you can't trust the content anymore. And we're going to have to find new ways. What will probably happen in my mind is search will move to TikTok because it's the only place I can flood it with bad content. And then I can have human beings pick through it and say, I like it or I don't like it. That's bad AI. That's bad AI. That's bad AI. That's good AI. And search will be, show me the things with the most likes that people have picked out, the nuance. Why is this funny? Because only a human brain gets it because it's never been seen before.
Well, Matt Armstrong, I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite conversations I've had. I really enjoy the thought that really help us to really dissect and find the path for us as we cruise through this new jungle of artificial intelligence, the noise that's out there. Thank you for being that type of coach that does that. Look, if owners or companies want to bring you on as a coach for them, right, and they're looking for support as they transition through those this jungle of information, how do they bring you on board? How do they find you? How do they
Yeah, the
communicate with you?
easiest way is just to go to our website. We're still, I try not to get too lost in the world out there of social media and bring everyone through there. So c22tech.com is the name of our website.
So C22
Yeah,
Tech,
it's,
TECH.com.
C22. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll get it in the notes there too.
Yep.
Just fill out the form there, and you can get a response back from me, and we'll start a conversation. And yeah, let me just say to you, I appreciate you making a space to have these conversations, because as much as this sounds like a technology conversation, it really is a question of, what do we want as humans? Because we're getting more and more tools. What are we going to build in terms of a life? What are we going to build for ourselves? So I think you're asking the right questions, and I appreciate you giving me the time to actually talk through it with you.
It's been awesome. I love
really
it.
Enjoyed it too.
Audience, if you had fun listening tonight, do me a favor. Please take a second and like and subscribe. It means the world to us, the team, all the people in the background, Joe and Connor and Van and Matt and myself. It just means the world. Just take a second, do that now. It gives us good feedback. And if you got a comment, put it down below. We answer every single comment. As you guys all know, we've answered all your comments. We always answer them. If you got something to say, but if you have an opinion on it, put it down below. We'll make sure that we answer it for you. As always, we're grateful for you listening.